Hare Krishna, everyone, on this Monday morning, July 6th. We're back for another threesome every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 7:30 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. We go on Facebook Live with morning Bhagavatam classes. Thanks for joining us, Govinda, Joe, and others to come. We'll start by offering respects to our line of disciplic succession. Om Ganati Marandasyan Ganagana Sadakya Chaksurun Meditam Yena Tajmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutare Sayam Rupakadam Yam Darati Swaparantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Siyata Parakamanam Sri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Sri Rupam Sagatanam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Stam Sadevam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sayitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Ladita Sri Vishakan Vitam Scha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Tinamane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Vishesa Sunivari Paskada De Sarharine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sari Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devam Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayodhyarayat Nashtaprayasho Bhadresu Nityam Bhagata Sevya Bhagavati Utamashoki Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Nigamaka Paduru Garitam Param Sukhamakaramita Dravi Samitam Pivada Bhagatam Asamare Mahora Horashika Bhavi Bhavakaham. Good morning, Rupa Manjari. Good morning, Anjali. Good morning, Jimmy. Hare Krishna. Malini from Malaysia. Malini in Asia. Manasaganga. Jai Krishna. Thanks very much for everyone for joining us for another round, a series of 3 Bhagavatam classes every Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 7:30 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. We've progressed over, I don't know how many weeks. This has been going on for quite some time. Pat ourselves on the head for all the consistency here. But we are on the 23rd verse of the 2nd chapter, 1st canto, Srimad Bhagavatam. Sattvam rajastama iti prakriti gunaster yukta para purusha eka ihasya date stiti adaya hari varinichi hareti shamya saryamshi tatra kalo shatvatano nunam sha. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. The transcendental personality of Godhead is indirectly associated with the 3 modes of material nature, namely passion, goodness, and ignorance, and just for the material world's creation, maintenance, and destruction, he accepts the 3 qualitative forms of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Of these 3, all human beings can derive ultimate benefit from Brahma, Vishnu, or Shiva. What do you think? Yes, Vishnu is the right answer. The form of the quality of goodness. Prabhupada writes in the purport here, first paragraph, that Lord Sri Krishna, by his plenary parts, should be rendered devotional service, as explained above, is confirmed by this statement. Lord Sri Krishna and all of his plenary parts are Vishnu Tattva, or the Lordship of Godhead. From Sri Krishna, the next manifestation is Baladeva. From Baladeva, Sankarshan. From Sankarshan is Narayan. Narayan, second Sankarshan. From this Sankarshan come the Vishnu Purush avatars. The Vishnu, or the deity of the quality of goodness in the material world, is the Purusha avatar known as Shirodakshai Vishnu, or Paramatma. Brahma is the deity of Rajas, passion, and Shiva of ignorance. They are the 3 departmental heads of the 3 qualities of this material world. Creation is made possible by the goodness of Vishnu, and when it requires to be destroyed, Lord Shiva does it by the Tandavantra. The materialists and foolish human beings worship Brahma and Shiva respectfully, but the pure transcendentalists worship the form of goodness, Vishnu in his various forms. If you ask people in general to define God, usually they'll say he's the creator. 80% will say he's the creator. I have experience of this we have lots of tours of school groups, junior high, senior high school, college, and a lot of times I'll ask them this question. I say, what's your idea of God? And 80% will say the creator, 20% will say the destroyer, and almost nobody will say the preserver. They don't have that conception of God as the preserver in the Western countries. And so I give them this example. Let's say your parents bought a lot They paid a construction company to go into that lot and build a house. You lived in it for 20 or 30 years, during which time the parents mowed the lawns, kept everything clean. Every 10 years they renovated all the kitchen cabinets, painted the house every so often. And then finally they decided that either they wanted to build something bigger or they wanted to buy another property. So then they might have hired a demolition company to go on and destroy the property. Now, it's not untrue to say that the construction company built or created the property. That's not untrue. But it's also true to say that they're the secondary creator. Nor is it untrue to say that the demolition company destroyed the property. That's not untrue. That's true. But it's a secondary truth, because both in the instance of creation or construction and in the instance of destruction, annihilation, or demolition, it was really your parents who paid the construction people and who paid the demolition people. In other words, had your parents not empowered them with finances, the house would have never been built or the house would have never been destroyed. So the primary creators and the primary demolition entities are, in fact, your parents who preserved the house, who lived in the house between the period of creation and the period of demolition. And therefore, when we come to weigh the various merits and values of the creator, the preserver, and the destroyer, with a little bit of thought, a little bit of meditation, cognition, we have to conclude that of the creator, of the destroyer, and the preserver, the most important one is the preserver. And therefore, if you're going to pick one to worship, don't worship the creator, don't worship the destroyer, worship the preserver, because he in fact is the creator and the destroyer, ultimately, when you get down as deep as you can get in it. As far as worship goes, the worship of the entity Lord Vishnu and the mode of goodness takes you up. Worship of Lord Brahma and the mode of passion keeps you here in this middle section, and worship in the mode of ignorance, not that Lord Shiva is in the mode of ignorance himself, but he presides over the mode of ignorance, that will lead you down, as it's confirmed in the 18th verse, 14th chapter of the Bhagavatam. Urdvam gachanti satvashta madhye tashanti rajasaha jagani guna vritushi adho patanti tamashaha. Urdvam gachanti, sattva means worship in the mode of goodness, in other words, worship of Vishnu. That's going to take you upwards. Madhya Tishtante Rajasa. Raja means passion. That's presided over by Lord Brahma. Madhya means, just like in English we have middle. That's going to keep you on the middle position. There are, above this earth planet, higher planets called Shraloka. We're Bur, and there's also Bhuva. But we're on the middle planetary systems. Above us are the planets of the demigods, the higher planetary systems. And those who worship Lord Vishnu in the mode of goodness, after leaving this body, they can go up to the planets of the demigods. And the advantage of that is you live for hundreds of thousands of years and enjoy a higher standard of living. Once Prabhupada said that the demigods, for all practical purposes, don't get old. They only get old a year before they die. And they don't have to go through birth and growth. And remember how miserable it was being a child and having all those changes of body and just everything that comes with being a child. It's just like, yuck. The demigods are full grown within a short time of having appeared, and they don't go through the pangs of birth in the same way that we do. And so it's definitely a boost up to worship in this life Lord Vishnu, and then the benefits that one enjoys in the next life are many, many thousands of times amplified. So one goes up by worshiping Lord Vishnu in the mode of goodness. One comes back to these middle planets. And in the mode of goodness, everything is mostly happy and very little misery. In the middle planets, it's, equal misery, happiness, misery, happiness. On the other hand, it is said, Jagani guna vritoshti adho gajanti tamashaham. If you act in such a way in this life, disregard scriptures, you gravitate more towards ignorance and illusion, intoxication, meat eating, then the result will be that in the next life you'll go down. Right now, each and every one of us, I presume, everybody who's listening to this Facebook Live, I presume you have the human body, which is a rare and valuable opportunity to get out of. Human body itself is like a launching pad, it's a springboard. And then to go into the mode of goodness in the human form of body optimizes again your chances for ultimate rarification, purification, and ultimately going back to home, back to Godhead. However, if you spoil this valuable and rarely achieved human form of a life for eating meat, taking intoxication, just being a two-legged animal, then this verse tells us that you won't get the human form of a life next time around. You've gotten this opportunity, but you've squandered it, you've wasted it. And so it's not going to circle around in front of you anytime in the future. Rather, one who acts in the mode of ignorance will be pushed down to the lower planets. And the lower planets, the misery is greater, the pleasure is less. Eventually, it's mechanical. One will die, take birth, each time rising a niche. Eventually, one will come back to the human form of life, and hopefully, at that time, one will have integrated by instinct or intuition, call it what you want, one will have integrated the lessons, learned from the mistakes that one's made during one's past human incarnation, and move on from there. Questions often asked, do we incur good or bad karma as a demigod or as an animal? And the answer is no. The only level at which we're liable or accountable for our actions is in this human form of life, based on the choices that we make here, what books to read, what movies to watch, what friends to hang around with, what food to eat. Based on those choices, we accrue good and bad activities. And therefore, in the time of leaving this body, we either go up or we go down. But when you go up or down, if you go up, you're just enjoying and burning off the fruits of pious activities in the mode of goodness. If you go down and take birth in a subhuman form, then you're in the same way burning off the negative results of bad karma. Now, someone may ask, how is this possible? Higher planets, lower planets? Scientists tell us that, as far as we know, there's only life on this planet. There may be life on one or two other of the millions and millions of planets in the galaxies, but we haven't established that. We haven't determined that. There may be hints at it, radio transmissions, unaccountable sounds, UFOs, but it's all in the area of rank, gross speculation, fringe type activity. But we can learn just by sitting here in Spanish Fork, Utah, with an open copy of the Bhagavad Gita, that not only is there life on one or two other planets in the galaxies, but there's life on every planet without any exception. And how do we know that? Because just the nature of life. Bhagavad Gita tells us, Nenam chindati sastini, nenam tadati pavaka, na chayanam kladiyat na society marataham. The soul, life itself, cannot be sastra, cut by any weapon. No matter how sharp of a samurai sword you have, you can never divide the soul. It's indivisible. Nenam dadati pavaka. Now, take the sun planet. It's so hot there that if you go out without a shirt on for even an hour here in July, and we're 93 million miles away from the sun, if you go out without a shirt, you'll get a sunburn. You'll be very uncomfortable. Your skin will peel a few days later. Oh, it's very hot in the sun. Oh, we can't exist in these organisms, obviously on the sun planet, but it states by Lord Krishna in Bhagavad Gita that the soul cannot be burned. It doesn't matter how hot it is. Doesn't matter how many tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of BTUs it is. Doesn't matter how hot the fiery furnace or how hot the sun globe. The soul, life, this body will burn in a second, but the life force that inhabits this body cannot be burned by any fire, nor can it be drowned by any water or withered by the wind. What does that tell us? When the scientists talk about life existing or not existing on other planets, they're talking about in these organisms. But life itself, adapting an organism which is suitable to the environment, can and does exist everywhere. We have Utah Lake. There are a number of factories that have spewed their toxins into Utah Lake over some periods of decades. But we can't imagine how there'd be life in the toxic watery environment of Utah Lake. But there is. It's teeming with life. I couldn't live in Utah Lake. I couldn't live in the water. But there's life in the water. It just has gills and a special apparatus for breathing. You won't find anywhere in God's creation where there isn't life. It is such a conceit, even on the part of so-called religious persons, to think that this earth planet is the only creation of God, that this is the limit of God's creative abilities, and everything else up there in the sky at night, the Milky Way and the galaxy and all, is just like a backdrop for a high school play. What a ridiculous, conceited, anthropomorphic view of life. Fact is that God's creative powers are mind-boggling, stupefying, unlimited, and in fact there isn't any place spread throughout any of the millions and millions of uncounted universes where in fact there is not life. Prabhupada points out in his purport to this verse in the Bhagavatam, Sarvagata means all-pervading. Prabhupada says this word Sarvagata is significant because there is no doubt that living entities are all over God's creation. They live in the land, in the water, in the air, within the earth, and even fire. And this brings to mind a verse from a poem that I wrote about this very same subject. The inner soul continues when the outer body ends, like flame from wood sparks ascending, transcending dark matter, blending with the sky, invisible to the naked eye. You cannot kill nor can you die. You cannot burn nor can you fry. The soul cannot be scorched by any blaze. No water can drown the spirit. No wind can make it faint. You cannot cut another nor can you bleed. The soul is unborn, eternal, a seed, indivisible, indestructible, forever free from birth, death, old age, and disease. Yet howsoever turned or tossed, the soul can never itself exhaust. Seated in the heart, beating its drum, powering everyone brighter than the sun, the soul's superior force lives on and runs its endless course in God's unlimited universe. Thanks all for all this hearts and everything. Just as a heads up, I might be persuaded to come out with another verse of that song if I see a bunch more likes and hearts go up there. Yeah, we're a team, aren't we? A few more, give me a few more, and I will continue to wax poetic. And also, the more interactivity there is on this side, the more the algorithms of Facebook push us up and the more exposure. That's it. Go team, Malini, Anjali, etc., etc. That's the spirit. Okay, you have earned one more verse of Charu's dazzlingly poetic rap songs. As a cloud is seated on air, so spirit supports the flesh. Take away the living force, it's just chemicals lying there. A corpse naked and bare, not a twitch or wiggle, not a subtle wink or giggle. Can't tickle it or puzzle it with a riddle. Deaf, blind, mute, dumb, numb. Can't reward it, can't ignore it, can't restore it. Deader than a doornail, stiffer than a board. Only thing to return it, burn it, bury it. Earth to earth, ash to ashes, dust to dust. Infirm body versus immortal soul. Learn the difference, conquer ignorance, make a spiritual choice. Sing out, give voice, rejoice. Make some noise for the spiritual force. And at this point, when I'm live before a Festival of Colors audience, I suggest that they repeat after me. I say Hari, you say Krishna, Hari, Hari. I say Krishna, you say Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. I say Hari, you say Hari, Hari, Hari. I say Hari, you say Rama, Hari, Hari. I say Rama, you say Rama, Rama, Rama. I say Hari, you say Hari, Hari, Hari. All right. Thanks for that little episode there. I think we've got the idea, don't we? That there's a vast difference between the soul and the body. Prabhupada used to say, It's anti-material. Material is temporary, full of ignorance, and miserable, and that's material. That's this body. Those are the attributes of this body. But the anti-material is eternal, full of bliss and knowledge. Satchidananda, imperishable, immortal. We're the stuff. We're made of the same stuff that God's made up. And as Jai Krishna would say, if he's still watching, that's really good stuff. And spirit is divided into categories unknown to the impersonalists of the monists, who just lump all spirit together homogeneously. The scriptural information that we have is that the Lord expands himself in broad categories. Now, his direct expansions are what we call plenary portions, or Vishnu tattvas, contain the full potencies of the Godhead himself. The example is given, departure, eva dashantanam abhapeta, dipayate. Dipa in Sanskrit means flame or candle. So departure eva dashantanam abhapeta, dipayate vivita, yastadrig eva cha vishnaya vibhati, govinda madhupurusham. This Vishnu vibhati is what we call a plenary portion or a plenary expansion. Now, it would seem like plenary and portion are two contradictory terms. Plenary means full and portion means not. What is it meant by the term plenary portion? Well, the Lord, just like a candle can light 10 other candles, and then those 10 candles are just as powerful as the original. So Vishnu tattvas, or plenary expansions of the Lord, they are just as powerful as the original. But there is a distinction still, that from Krishna you can get so many Vishnu tattvas. From Krishna you can get so many plenary portions, and they are in many senses equal to Krishna, as powerful as Krishna, they're worshipable like Krishna, but the distinction is Krishna stu Bhagavan Swayam. From one Krishna you get many, many Vishnus, but however many Vishnus you have, you don't get one Krishna. So Krishna is the fountainhead, the source. An example is also given by Lord Brahma that milk and yogurt are equal. They're both dairy products. And from milk you can get yogurt, but never in the history of the world have you ever reversed the process and from yogurt gotten milk. So that's the distinction. They're all Vishnu tattvas. They're all worshipable. They're all gods. When you go to India, you visit the Varaha temple, you visit the Shringa temple, you visit the Parasuram temple, you visit all the Vishnu temples, and you visit the Krishna temples with the same devotion, the same feel of servitude, awe, and reverence. But there is a subtle distinction between Vishnu and Krishna. Here it's explained in very, very exalted language by our Guru's Guru, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, in his translation and purports to the Brahma Samhita. Hence, you have to listen carefully, I'm warning you here. Hence, Vishnu is the full subjective portion and belongs to the category of superior Ishwaras. He is the Lord of the deluding potency and not alloyed with her. Vishnu is the agent of Govinda's own subjective nature in the form of the prime cause. All the majestic aspects of Govinda, aggregating 60 in number, are fully present in his majestic manifestation. So Vishnu is the formal manifestation of the Godhead with 4 arms and crowns, imperial, monarchical, intimidating. Vishnu is the majestic manifestation of Krishna. But Krishna is God with his hair let down. Krishna is God who invites you to enter into intimate, loving pastimes with him. Krishna is not intimidating. He's not monarchical. He's not majestic. He's relaxed. He's laid back. He's reserved himself for when you turn your life around and take steps to get out of this entanglement of this material world. He's poised there to give you a good hug and a welcome celebration. He's eagerly anticipating reuniting with you after you've been apart from him for so many incarnations in this material world. One more paragraph here by Bhaktisiddhanta. Brahma and Shiva are entities adulterated with mundane qualities. Although Vishnu is also divine appearance in mundane quality, guna avatar, still he is not adulterated. Vishnu is associated with the mode of goodness, but he's not overwhelmed. He's not covered. He's not conditioned by the modes of goodness. Vishnu is Godhead himself, as we just explained, and the other two guna avatars, or the avatars of the modes of passion and ignorance, Brahma and Shiva, and all the other gods are entities possessing authority in subordination to him. And then continuing on with Prabhupada's purport to the original verse, our verse of discussion here today. Vishnu is manifested by his millions and billions of integrated forms and separated forms. The integrated forms are called Godhead, and the separated forms are called the living entities, or the jivas. Both the jivas and Godhead have their original spiritual forms. Jivas are sometimes subjected to the control of the material energy, but the Vishnu forms are always controllers of this energy. When Vishnu, the personality of Godhead, appears in the material world, he comes to deliver the conditioned living beings who are under the material energy. Such living beings appear in the material world with intentions of being lords, and thus they become entrapped by the three modes of material nature. As such, the living entities have to change their material coverings for undergoing different terms of imprisonment. This is the samsara, the cycle of reincarnation. The prison house of the material world is created by Brahma under instruction of the personality of Godhead, and at the conclusion of a kalpa, the whole thing is destroyed by Shiva. But as far as maintenance of the prison house is concerned, it is done by Vishnu, as much as the state prison house is maintained by the state. We have before us in the human form of life various avenues or various channels we can pursue. In the Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, 25th verse, it states, Yanti Deva Bhata Devan, by worshiping and conducting your life in the mode of goodness, you can in your next life reincarnate amongst the demigods in the higher planets. Pitri Nyanti Pitri Bhataham, or you can follow your pitris, your ancestors. There's a planet, a realm called Pitri Loka, where ancestors go, and you can also join your ancestors. We're living here in Mormon, Utah, and the culture is very much flavored by this idea of rejoining one's pitris, or reuniting with one's ancestors in the next life. There are other options. Bhutani Yanti Bhutejam. Again, for those in another mode, the mode of ignorance, you can also join in with the ghosts and spirits in your next life. You worship ghosts and spirits, you pursue activities in the mode of ignorance, and then you go into the mode of ignorance in your next life. However, there's a fourth option, and let me make note that whether you want to go to the demigods or join the ancestors or join ghosts and spirits, it's pretty much the same exertion of energy. Just like if you want to buy a ticket to Camden, New Jersey, or you want to buy a ticket to Hawaii, the ticket may cost the same amount. The Camden, New Jersey, Gary, Indiana, I don't know if they're experienced any urban renewal or renaissance. I'm not up to date on history of those metropolises, metro cities, but it used to be a version of hell. So the ticket to hell, or the ticket to heaven, the ticket to Gary, Indiana, or Camden, New Jersey, I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody, or the ticket to Hawaii costs the same amount. So whether you want to go be with the demigods, or when you want to go with ancestors, or when you go with ghosts and spirits, or whether you want to go back to home, back to Godhead, basically it's the same investiture of energy. But what we have to consider is the result, which is the best result. And going back to go with Krishna, back to Godhead, results in getting out of the prison house of this material world and being free from the conditions of birth, death, disease, and old age. That's obviously the best use of your energy in this human form of life. Krishna states it. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship the ancestors go to the ancestors. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. And those who worship me will live with me. So it's very easy to understand through this verse that if by simply worshiping the demigods, one can achieve the heavenly planets, or by worshiping the ancestors, one can achieve the ancestors, or by practicing the black arts to achieve the ghostly planets, why cannot the pure devotee of Krishna achieve the planet of Vishnu or Krishna? The unfortunate case is that people don't believe there's even life on other planets, being misled by the so-called scientists. There's a dearth of information about the various qualities and levels and standard of living which are available even in this prison house of the material world. What to speak of the existence of the vast expanse of the spiritual world, of which it is said, Natad Bhasyate Sura, Nashashanka Yadgat Banadvartite Tadharma Paramamama. In that spiritual world which lies beyond the passion, beyond the ignorance, beyond the goodness of this material world, there is no need of sunlight or moonlight or electricity. It is self-effulgence. It is eternal, and those who go back to the spiritual world never return to this material world of birth and death again. But before we can understand about the spiritual world, why don't the scientists take advantage of the knowledge which is handed out, gifted to us in the Bhagavad Gita, and learn about how not only is there not just life on this planet, but there's life on every planet. And you can go to any planet you desire, material or spiritual, based on your own choice, how you're going to orient yourself, how you're going to worship. Here in the 21st verse of the 9th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it says, Tetam Bhutva Shargaloka Vishanam Sinye Punya Martaloka Vishanti Evam Tayi Dharma Manu Prapanam Gata Gatums Kamakava Lavante. The Ferris wheel is being described of the prison house of this material world. Tetam Bhutva Shargaloka Vishanti. If in this human form of life you perform pious activities, philanthropic, charitable activities in the mode of goodness, you purify your own existence by eating cruelty-free foods, respect the bodies of other living beings, not only in your species, but in the subhuman species, respect the planet Earth, then you can fully expect to have accumulated reservoirs of pious activities called punya, and after leaving this present body, you can go and live amongst the demigods for hundreds of thousands of years, enjoying a standard of life that's unimaginable here. However, you cannot stay on the planets of the demigods. Or rather, let me put it this way. You can stay only as long as the sum total of your pious activities last. But every day you're expending that punya. It's like you can save up your money and go to Hawaii, and Hawaii is a lot better than most places in the United States, especially inner city areas. But every day you stay in Hawaii, you're spending your savings. And when your savings are exhausted, then you have to go back home and continue to work in the factory. Similarly, one can go to the heavenly planets, but one stays there. One is maintained aloof on the strength of one's pious activities. That's why I said earlier, you don't accumulate, while you're living in the demigods, you don't accumulate pious activities to sustain you. You're only spending. Of course, by the same token, if you sink to the subhuman level, you're also spending the results of bad choices. You're spending the negative results of your karma, after which you'll come back to the human form. Similarly, as a demigod, eventually having exhausted all of your punya, you will, as it's described in this verse, sinye punya, when your punya has exhausted, martya lokam. Martya means death. This is martya loka. This is the planet of death, where repeated birth, death, and disease take place. Vishanti, you fall down. Evam tayi dharma manu prapana gata gadums kama kabalamate. Therefore, pursuing the path of karma kanda, of doing good deeds, getting good results, it just brings you back to where you started in the first place. It's like a Ferris wheel. It can go very high, but once you reach the apogee, then you have to go down to the bottom, and then up again and down again. Ultimately, nothing substantial is achieved by this process of what we call karma kanda. And we'll give you an example here. a story from scriptures to bring the point home. It is said that Lord Indra, at one point in time past, he killed Vritrasura, who was causing disturbance in the universe. But, and of course he was applauded for that by the other demigods and all who had been ousted by Vritrasura. However, Indra knew more about Vritrasura than most knew. He knew that Vritrasura had been a devotee in his past life. He'd been unfairly cursed by Parvati to take one birth as a demon. But even as a demon, he was a Brahmin, and he was a devotee at heart. So Indra knew that even though he had to kill Vritrasura, even though he was supported in that by all the demigods and Vishnu, even though he had his special weapon composed of the bones of Dadichi, he had all certification, he had all endorsement, he had all the bona fides to be a champion of righteousness and kill Vritrasura. He knew that in spite of all that, he had incurred sin because of killing a Brahmin and a devotee. So he asked the goddess of fortune to protect him from the sinful reactions of killing a Brahmin and devotee. And he was living in exile from his heavenly kingdom for 1,000 years inside of a lotus flower protected by the goddess of fortune. A vacancy was created in the heavenly planets, and that vacancy was filled by someone who in his previous life had done thousands and thousands of sacrifices, given thousands of cows in charity, built wells, goshalas. He had a huge mountain of punya. And so this mortal named Nahusha, after leaving his earthly body, when he ascended to heaven, he didn't just go to live amongst the demigods. He'd done so much punya during his time as a human on earth that he was promoted right up to the level of Indra, and he presided over the heavenly planets while Indra was hiding out from the results of his having killed Vritrasura. So that's all well and good. So far, it's a good, happy, feel-good story. But the problem was, the longer Nahusha stayed in the heavenly planets, the longer he received respects and obeisances from all the inhabitants and from all the exalted demigods and devas like Kuvera and Chandra and all like that. And the more his stockpile of punya started to exhaust himself, then as there became vacancies in his tank, so to speak, some arrogance and pride and swell-headedness started to get in him. And he had been in the heavenly planets for so long, he'd forgotten that he even ever had birth in Marchaloka on Earth planet as a human being. He thought he'd always been there, he'd always be there. And his arrogance reached a point that after a while he said, oh, we haven't seen Indra for a long time. Indra's out of the picture. He's probably dead somewhere. Here's Sachi, Indra's beautiful wife. I'm occupied the post of Indra, doing the duties of Indra. So why shouldn't she become my wife? Why shouldn't she agree to become my wife? And if she doesn't agree, why don't I just take her by force? So he pestered her and he harassed her so much that she worked out a contrivance, not only to get rid of this guy, but also to bring back her husband. So she complained to the sage Agastya. She said, can you get this guy off my back? I'm never going to share my bed with him. I'm never going to marry him. I'm going to wait for my husband Indra to come back. So she worked out a plan with Agastya, this great Muni, who was capable of cursing people. She said to Nahusha, okay, I will wait for you on a certain day, and you come to my marriage chamber, but one condition, you have to come on a chariot just to show how great you are, how incomparable you are, how supreme you are. You have to come to me on a chariot pulled by sages, including Agastya. So Nahusha thought, yeah, why not? It's fitting, it's suitable, it's appropriate, considering my unassailable supreme position. So he actually fell for it. And he had the sages in harness, hooked up to pull his heavenly golden chariot, and he was so lusty, he was so impatient to get to Sachi's bedchamber that he was whipping them and saying, go faster, go faster, go faster. And finally, as the last drop, as the last morsel of piety came out of the upper part of the hourglass and dropped into the bottom, and there was nothing left in his tank, he finally got so impatient, so overwhelmed by lusty desires, he was so bereft of any piety or goodness now that he, out of impatience, in order to try and make them go faster, he kicked Agastya. And at that point, Sachi's plan clicked into place. Agastya turned and he said, you are no longer fit to reside in the heavenly planets. I curse you to fall back down as a mortal. That's what happened. Not only did he fall back to Earth planet, but in his next incarnation, he was a big fat snake who constricted the powerful Bhima during the pastimes of the Pandavas. But I won't tell that story. That'll be a story for another day. So you get the point? Krishna says, yes, you can invest your time and energy in this life in such a way as to ascend to the planets of Demic. But why would you do that when just as easily you can chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare, associate with all the wonderful jewel-like devotees who have all the qualities of the demigods anyway, take prasadam, chant and dance, and go back to that supreme abode, going which one never returns to this material world. Why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you take the intelligent? And it's the course of least resistance, because the Lord who created millions and millions of universes, he wants you to do exactly that. Any other course is going to be a lot of effort, little results. But when you connect yourself to the Supreme Personality of Godhead in devotional service with relatively little effort, I mean, Krishna is easily satisfied. He's the Lord of all the demigods. You want to worship and please the demigods, big arrangement, big paraphernalia, and in the end, it's just much ado about nothing. But Krishna is pleased by a flower, fruit, leaf, or water. I think I could be persuaded to come out with another verse or two in this connection, should I see some little thingamajigs flying up. You guys are fast. Okay. All right. So Krishna says, this is an adaptation of Kalakanta's, the rap of the Bhagavad Gita. Let me just gather my thoughts here. Yeah. Arjuna, the things you do every day, the gifts you give, and every tasty veggie dish, if offer them to me with love and see your soul enriched. A cup of water makes me smile, though I could drink an ocean. Flower, fruit, and leaf are fine if they're offered in devotion. Keeping me in the center, your karma will never interfere, because loving devotional service is the dharma of the spiritual atmosphere. I don't play any favorites. Everyone gets what they desire, so if someone longs for me in bhakti, I'm naturally inspired. Even if you mess up a time or two, I won't make any complaint. Just rise up again and you can still shine like a saint. How easy it is and how accessible Krishna is. Krishna wants us back more keenly than we want to return. So let's just review this quote. Thank you very much for your reciprocation. You make these Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday sessions very, very relishable. Appreciate it. So here's what Lord Krishna said in this connection to the many kings that had been imprisoned by Jarasandha and which Krishna liberated. He gave these nuggets of advice to them. He said to the kings, it is a fact that the materially opulent position of one who is not fully Krishna consciousness is the cause of his downfall. Such was the case with Nahusha, and his becoming a victim of the illusory energy. That's exactly what happened with Nahusha. And he mentions Nahusha here. In the past, there were many rebellious kings such as Haihaya, Nahusha, Vena, Ravana, and Narakasura. Some of them were demigods and some of them were demons, but because of their false perception of their positions, they fell from their exalted posts and were lost in the violence of conditioned life. Now, every one of you out there would do well to understand that everything material has 6 phases. I think this is described by Prahlad Maharaj in the 7th canto. Janmara sari me bhava drishta desyanatmanam anatmanam tu satvatam kalaneshwari mortanam. Everything in this material creation goes through 6 changes: birth, growth, duration, reproduction, dwindling, and vanishing. From Lord Brahma himself, the creator of the material world, down to the insignificant ant. So Krishna says all material bodies are subject to these 6 changes, and any relative acquisitions accumulated by this body are definitely subject to final destruction. Can I repeat that? Any relative, key word there, relative as opposed to absolute. Absolute acquisitions will never atrophy, will never diminish, will never be taken away, but relative acquisitions accumulated by this body will always be taken away, are definitely subject to final destruction. Therefore, now if you're intelligent out there, please take note of this. Therefore, this is the conclusion, and this is Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, speaking for our own ultimate benefit. Krishna says, therefore, no one should be attached to perishable things. As long as one is within this material body, he should be very cautious and reserved and reticent in worldly dealings. The most perfect way of life in this material world is simply to be devoted to my transcendental loving service. And what will be the result of transcending goodness, passion, and ignorance, devoting yourself to Krishna, from whom millions and millions of Vishnus, Brahma, and Shiva comes, and ultimately being gathered back by him, back to home, back to Godhead, as it is stated by Lord Krishna himself in Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, 15th verse. Mamupecha Purnarjanma, who comes back to me, who gains my shelter, Purnarjanma, is finished with the business of birth, death, growth, reproduction, dwindling, vanishing. He's finished with all those 6 changes. He's finished dukale mashashvatam. He's finished in this temporary world of miseries. Napnuvanti mahatmana, such a mahatma, such a great soul, having achieved me, never falls down again to this material world. Why? Samsiddhim paramam gatim, because he has attained the highest perfection. And since this material world is full of the miseries of birth, death, disease, and old age, then naturally he who achieves the highest perfection and attains that ultimate abode, Krishna Loka, Goloka Vrindavan, does not wish ever again to return. Even the impersonalists, by dint of penances and austerities, and who rise very, very high, even the impersonalists fall down again from their impersonalistic realization. The Krishna consciousness movement, however, is distributing that sublime information to human society, the result of which is that by simply chanting the Hare Krishna mantra and taking prasadam, associating with all the wonderful devotees, one can become perfect in this life and in the next life. Go back to home, back to Godhead. We'll just conclude here by reading the final paragraph of Prabhupada's purport. Thank you very much. It's like a post-4th of July fireworks display that you all are putting on there. So let's not withhold our appreciation here for Srila Prabhupada as we conclude his purport for this wonderful, wonderful verse. Prabhupada says, anyone therefore who wishes to get out of this prison house of material existence, which is full of miseries, like repetition of birth, death, disease, and old age, must please Lord Vishnu for such liberation. Lord Vishnu is worshipped by devotional service only, And if anyone has to continue prison life in the material world, he may ask for relative facilities for temporary relief from different demigods like Shiva, Brahma, Indra, and Varuna. No demigod, however, can release the imprisoned living entity from the conditioned life of material existence. This can only be done by Vishnu. Again, we got another slam bang. Therefore, the ultimate benefit may be derived from Vishnu or Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whew. Wow, feels good, doesn't it? Are you feeling good, Anjali, Malini, Rupa Manjari, Jimmy, Vaibhavi, Mahatma, Sundari Priya, Govinda, Daniel, Haribo Daniel, we're missing you so badly. Sweet Daniel, Radhe Sham, Catherine, Barsana, Sachi and Prashant, thanks so much. Everybody feeling, Christine all the way from France, probably more there, but the scrolling, I can't do too much scrolling. Anyway, I hope you agree with me. Jai Krishna, please come do kirtans on Sunday. I hope you agree with me that we got off a good start on this Monday morning with Srimad Bhagavatam class, 23rd verse, 2nd chapter, 1st canto. We'll see you, hopefully, 24 hours from now for Transcendental Tuesday. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Manasa Ganga, just seeing your name now. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.